I have 5 o'clock whenever Mayor Mahovy is ready to begin.
All right, then I'll call to order this Monday, November 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Bishop City Council at 5. It is currently 5 p.m. Robin, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kong,
You're muted, Karen.
Councilmember Kong,
Karen Kong, can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us.
I asked her to unmute. Councilmember Kong, Councilmember Kong, are you
Here.
present? Thank you.
Oh, shit.
All right. Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Here.
Mayor Mahovy.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, public comment. This time is set aside to receive public comment on matters not calendared on the agenda for closed session only. When recognized, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Robin, do we have any, did we receive any public comment on this matter onto our email address?
We have no public comments on our email address, and
Do we have any? Sorry, go on.
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, then we will now go into closed session. We have one item in closed session today. It's a conference with legal counsel with regards to anticipated litigation. So we'll meet the public back out here at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Okay, let's see where we are. Yeah. Wait a few more minutes. What time do we have? 53, 2 more minutes. And I'll look at that. I was gonna run to the restroom, but I said I better not take a chance. Okay, no messages. That's good. I'm gonna tell if it happens again, I'm gonna text our IT guy and then, oops, my thing's like broadcast. Okay, people are starting to get back. I've made Dean Pucci and Elaine Kabala co-hosts. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on our mics. We'll
Okay.
wait for Karen Schwartz to show. There she is. Okay, and we'll resume our recording on Zoom. And Veronica.
Are you getting feedback from me again, Stephen?
Not this time. A little bit, but not much. Just make sure you mute yourself. It should be good.
Okay, whenever
Hey, are we ready?
Mayor's ready.
All right. Then I will reconvene this open session of the Bishop City Council meeting for Monday, November 22nd. It is currently 6 p.m. Our invocation today will be given by Pastor Rick Klug of Calvary Baptist Church. And then, so please stand for that and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which today will be led by Councilmember Kong.
Thank you, Mayor Mahovy. Council, my privilege to join you. Let's pray, if you would, please. Our God and Father, we thank you for the chance to come before you. Thank you for the work that this council is doing and the city leaders. We are so appreciative of the hard work, and we know it is, in leading us. We pray earnestly that you would give them wisdom and insight and direction in all the decisions that they make and in the day-to-day stuff. Lord, you know how divided our world is and our community in a lot of ways. And we pray that you would help us to speak clearly to each other, and when we disagree, to do it agreeably and to work for the good. We pray that all of our eyes would be turned to you as our creator, the one who loves us. And again, thank you for the privilege. Thank you for these folks. Guide them and bless this meeting for your purposes. This we pray together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Robin, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kong.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz.
Here.
Mayor Mahovy.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, on to public comment. Notice to the public, this time is set aside to receive public comment on matters not calendared on the agenda. When recognized, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Under California law, we are prohibited from discussing or taking action on items that are not calendared on the agenda, but we'll definitely listen to your concerns. Robin, did we have any public comment on our email address?
I do not see any public comments on our email address. I do not see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
I do not see any raised hands.
Thank you.
Okay, then we will move on to report on actions taken in closed session as required by law. Direction was given to staff. And Today we have one proclamation. It's a proclamation for Home Health and Hospice Care Week, requested by Pioneer Home Healthcare Inc. Administrator Ruby Allen. Do we actually have Ruby present today, or?
Mayor Mahovey, I do not see that Ruby is in attendance this evening.
Okay, then we will definitely send her the proclamation, which we have printed out. If I could turn off my virtual background. Just a second. Because we are definitely appreciative of all of the work that they give, that they do at the at Home Health and Hospice, especially since it's caring for older members of the community who, and letting them stay in their homes for longer and getting better care, not having to travel elsewhere. So, Karen, Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to start us off with the proclamation? Unmute yourself.
Give me 1 second. I had to restart my computer and my proclamation is not open. I will be there with you guys in 1 second.
Great.
Mayor, will you just read my portion of the proclamation? I'm having trouble finding it.
Sure, I'll start it out for you. Okay. City of Bishop Proclamation, Home Health and Hospice Care Week, December 6, 2021 to December 10, 2021. Whereas home health care providers in Bishop belong to a proud tradition that has existed in this country for more than a century as a cost-effective and humane alternative to institutional care. And whereas quality hospice care reaffirms our belief in the essential dignity of every person, regardless of age, health, or social status, and that every stage of human life deserves to be treated with the utmost respect and care. And
whereas home health care services allow individuals to remain in the privacy and comfort of their home. The majority of home health clients are seniors, but services are also available to others needing assistance, such as new mothers, those recovering from illnesses and injury, and those with disabilities. And
whereas consumer preference for home care has been well documented, home care allows an individual to receive care in familiar surroundings with loved ones close at hand. Home care services provide the individual with respect and privacy in the comfort of their home. This is a tremendous benefit in maintaining their dignity, independence, and overall sense of well-being. And
whereas at the end of life, through quality symptom control, caregiver training and assistance, and emotional and spiritual support, individuals are able to remain at home and live as fully as possible through the journey at life's end. And
whereas home health and hospice care professionals, including physicians, nurses, social workers, therapists, counselors, health aides, chaplain, and volunteers, provide comprehensive and compassionate care. Home care support services provides attendant care to assist with daily living activities such as meal preparation, light housekeeping, errand services, conversation and companionship, grooming and dressing guidance, medication reminders, and respite for family members. Now, therefore, in recognition of these many hours of devoted service, I, Stephen Mahovey, Mayor of the City of Bishop, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim December 6, 2021 through December 10, 2021 as Home Health and Hospice Care Week in the City of Bishop, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Bishop to be affixed on this 22nd day of November 2021. And we will make sure to get this proclamation to their staff and to Ruby Allen. Okay, next up, we have our Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau update report prepared and presented by Executive Director Connie Thompson. Can we promote Tani to be a panelist. Hi, Tani.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay?
We can, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to give you a little update on what we have been up to. Since our strategic planning meetings that were held the previous 2 months, we have literally hit the ground running. The visit widget contract for the new app is in place, and Julie and I are currently working on getting the content put together for the programmers. The local freshies contract is in place, and that's where we're going to be working with the guest influencer to help us develop more content. Several print ads have been created and placed, and I did give you copies of a few of them, just because I think they look really nice and wanted to show them off. But also you can see how we are incorporating the Bishop Airport service into the ads in an ever so subtle way. I like the bird one. The birds fly to Bishop, and now you can too. So we've been having some fun with that. And we are in the process of setting up the Datify program, which will give us some really needed insights into consumer habits and spending. So I'm very excited about all those. Lots of work on the front end of all of those projects, but that's what we do this time of year. The visitor center has certainly been busier than last year at this time, but not really close to pre-pandemic levels. Our October guest count was about, pardon me, 2,200. Last year, we only helped 725 people, but in 2019, we helped 3,700. So we're eking back toward the pre-pandemic levels, but just for information, we're not quite there yet. Same story with the occupancy. I gave you a table there that gives you, a 3-year look back. So we are making progress, and October occupancy was an average of 78.1%. So certainly better than before BTID, though. Not as good as before the pandemic, but certainly better than prior to BTID. Do you have any questions about visitor center things, or I can quickly tell you? It's also a super busy time for the chamber side of our organization. That first shop local and get free movie tickets campaign was a tremendous success. Excuse me. We had 16 total shops were given tickets, and they were to give them out 2 at a time for purchases over $50. And we launched the campaign on October 27th, and almost all the tickets were gone within the first week to 10 days, I would say. But as of the time I wrote this last week, all but 3 locations have given away all the tickets. We're updating our social media to put a push out for the few locations that still have tickets. But it generated a ton of interest. Lots of customers, or lots of businesses told us it brought in first-time customers, but it also helped their regular customers to actually increase their dollar amount sales. And Holly said she saw lots of new traffic, that folks that hadn't been in for a long time in the theater too. So we're really grateful to COSO operating company for sponsoring that. We have another shop local raffle that's getting ready to launch next week. It's going to be the Keep It Local holiday raffle, and there's no fee to enter. Shoppers will just put their name and phone number on a little ticket in each of the participating shops. And in order to participate, the shops pitch in $100 and a $25 gift certificate. And that's what we use for the raffle prizes. Grand prize is a $500 local shopping spree. So it's well worth it to get out there. It's the 3rd year we've done it. It's growing and quite successful. The holiday decorations, thanks to DWP and the PD and Dan from the park, and Edison helped out too. The snowflakes are up and they're lit tonight. So on your way home, drive down Main Street if it's not too far out of your way. But I always love on the first night when the lights go up, it's magical. And then we're April and I and Dan are working to get the rest of the lights and the decorations up in the park and around the chamber building in the next week or so. The parade and the tree lighting come quick. It's the first Saturday in December. The parade's going to start at 4:30 p.m. We're encouraging everybody to get their parade entry forms in now so we can start working on the lineup. We have lots of volunteers that are helping out with the traffic management. And so I think we're in really good shape there. We're not having the official downtown Street of Lights party, the organized Street of Lights party this year, mainly because we want to keep everything outside. And we didn't really want to, I guess, be responsible for large indoor gatherings at this time. I'm sure some shops will stay open, take advantage of the crowds that are down there, but they'll manage how many people they want to let in their store at a time. Some have told us they're going to take things out and do like refreshments on the sidewalk and that sort of thing. But we are doing the tree lighting and the parade on the 4th. And just a reminder to the public that the street closures are going to start around 3:30. And just come downtown early. Don't try to wait till the last minute because it makes a big traffic jam, makes it a big hassle for the law enforcement, and it makes it for an unpleasant start to a really fun night. So just come a little bit early, enjoy the festivities, get a good parking place, and don't wait till the last minute. The following weekend, we have our Railroad Express out at Laws Museum, and I understand that I'm down one conductor, but that's okay. Thank you for your past help, Mayor Mahovey, and we'll get you next year. But we do have lots of volunteers on the roster to help us out with that. Again, we're doing some modifications to things, spreading people out a little bit more. So we won't have kids too clustered together doing the crafts, but for COVID safety, it's all outdoors. So we feel like it's okay. And we have a couple of new members. One is Romina's Party Supplies out in the Rite Aid Center, and also Dollar Tree joined. And last but not least on my list is December 13th. It's Bishop's turn to host Inyo Associates, and that's going to be at the Tri-County Fairgrounds in the room that is now called Chuck's Rodeo Roundup Room. That used to be the patio building, but it will be the first Inyo Associates there, and Chuck really loved Inyo Associates, so it's appropriate to have it there. The $20 fee will be a fundraiser for the Friends of the Fair. They're working on doing some fundraising for new arena sound. So that's all I have for tonight.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tani.
Thanks, everybody.
Any questions? No. Thanks again for all you and your staff do. It's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be busy.
All right, then we'll move right along to our department reports. Up first today is Fire Chief Joe Dell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. How are we tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. So just a quick update. Today we're 409 calls year to date. We kind of had a rash of commercial carrier fires over the last week. We had two, one at the bottom of the grade and one here in town. Had quite a few apparatus issues in the last couple of weeks, including some pump issues with one of those water tenders that we're trying to replace. Luckily, we had a pre-construction meeting with Burton's, and we're moving forward with at least getting the new one on order. We'll take into effect how much we'll look at the cost of fixing the water tender and seeing if it'll give us another year of service or not. But we also had some ladder truck issues. It's out of service right now with some wheel bearing stuff. So moving through kind of making sure that all that happens. 18 pieces of apparatus, sometimes they all like to break at once. And then the last thing is we're getting ready for the parade this week, and hope we're going to take Santa down the route.
Cool. Sounds good. Any questions, comments? No. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our department head report from Police Chief Richard Sandridge. Rich, are you with us?
I am. Got on here a little bit late.
No.
So how's council tonight? I just have only a few things to go over, so I'll go ahead and cover it because you'll hear enough from me here in a little bit with some items I have on the agenda. I'm in the process of reviewing our CLETS audit from the Department of Justice. It's our yearly audit that is done. We had a couple of minor issues that we need to correct, but nothing that's out of the ordinary for this type of audit with the amount of information that we enter. So I'll be preparing my written response to them within the next couple of weeks to get that to them. I've already talked with them on the phone, and overall they're happy with our performance. Just a couple of things we need to tighten up on, which is good. That's the purpose for an audit, is to just kind of show us what we're doing right and where we can improve. As Tawny had said earlier and Joe mentioned, we're in the process of getting ready for the parade, getting a lot of good help from Dan McElroy and volunteers that he's helping put together for us. And hopefully we're going to pull off an outstanding event. Then some of the things I've done in the last couple of weeks since our last council meeting, I attended the Tribe Juvenile Diversion Program meeting with all the local agencies. And I got the opportunity to sit and talk with Judge Stout for quite a bit of time afterwards, kind of a little bit about the program and some things that they're looking to do and what they need from us. So those conversations will be continuing in the near future. We're going to, as you know, we've had some trouble with staffing, which is nothing different than any other agencies experiencing across the state right now. So one of the things we are doing is Cody Lawson, our dispatcher, we have decided to send him to the police academy after the first of the year. And he is prepared for that. And we've been working with him for the last couple of months in anticipation of that. And he's ready to go. Also, Carla Jimenez is on track to graduate December 16th. So I will be going down to pin her badge on her at that ceremony. And she's doing really well. So we shouldn't have any issue there. Our current trainee, Rochelle Gosviner, is also doing very well, progressing exactly where we need her to. And we expect good things from her. And last but not least, well, two things. One, we're hiring a dispatcher. We did a competitive testing for that. We have a good list, and we also have a candidate that we're moving forward on. Pretty happy with that. And once Cody goes to the academy, we potentially will have another opening. So then we have a list formulated. Last but not least, grand jury came to visit last Tuesday. Very productive meeting, very enjoyable. Got a lot of good information both to them and from them. And so look forward to seeing their report. And other than that, if there's no questions from council, you'll hear from me in a little bit.
I mean, since you're new to the job, I can give you a spoiler of what the grand jury is going to find. The facilities are small. They're out of date.
Yeah,
but
they told me.
They've got bad carpet.
Know that too. Well, we're trying to rectify that. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Any questions? Thanks, Rich. I'm glad to hear our such activity on our recruitment. Any other questions for him, or can we? We'll hold off until the Rich show later this evening.
If I can add one thing, so the public can know, we are picking up our moving violation enforcement. So I have directed officers to do that, and so they can heed the warning now, or they can pay the ticket later. But we are targeting speeding. We are targeting violations of stop sign, crosswalk, and red light heavily. So I'm putting it out there.
Cool.
Good. Thank you much.
All right. Our Public Works Director is out in excuse today. He's visiting his grandchild. And so he'll be back for our next meeting. And so next up will be our Community Services Manager, Dan McElroy. Hey, Dan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How are we this evening?
Doing well, thanks. And yourself?
Very well, thank you. Been very busy at the park and looking to get busier as we go through the holidays here. As you know, snowflakes have been placed, and we will complete town decorations by next Monday, including the placement of the menorah in the front of the park. At the park, we continue to host our high school soccer, our youth travel team soccer, and also Ultimate Frisbee picked up last week. So they'll be down there a couple nights a week on Field 1 as well. Right now, our after-school program, gym, and our KIND program are on break, which is nice to give a break, not only to the kids, but also to our staff. We are asking for public comment via a survey through Proposition 68 Rural Tourism Grant. If the council hasn't seen it, it's already on our website, and everyone should look forward to an email. And I encourage you to fill out that survey and get it back to us so that we can have more public comment for a potential grant for Prop 68. And a couple last things is looking forward to doing the tree lighting and the parade on December 4th, and looking forward to seeing council and everybody out that night. It's a great night. It's something we enjoy to do. And last but not least, on the radar, plans for our mountain bike park are in the works. We have a support letter from DWP. We're right now completing the CEQA process and documents that go along with that, with hopes to come back to the council in the spring, and we'll break ground after that. So that's my report tonight, unless you guys have any questions or comments for me.
No, that sounds great. So just to remind everybody, any Prop 68 grant, we need community input. And this is your chance to give community input so that we can formulate the grant in a way that is most beneficial to all of us and represents our voices, right? So we can just go to the city website and find where to submit input there.
Yes, there's already a link on there. It's a SurveyMonkey link. So
awesome.
Is it on the front page or on the Park and Rec page?
I believe it's on our Park and Rec page, but I'm hoping Carrie will put it on the front page as well. So,
Guys, there was a link on our Facebook page online. The survey took all of 3 minutes to answer. Quick.
That was the idea, was to keep it simple.
Good. So. Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dan? No? Okay. Next up, our Associate Planner and Economic Development Coordinator, Elaine Cabala.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So a good update this evening. We finally received positive confirmation on our CDBG CD3 award. You may remember there was a great deal of back and forth on what that application would look like, going back as far as May or June. But it has gone through their process, and we will be finalizing the agreement this week. And then we can go out looking for a third party to help us administer that for small business assistance within the city of Bishop. That's good news. And that grant is in the amount of approximately $375,000. A portion of that will go towards administration. Also just wanted to let the council know that our window for cannabis retail facilities is open from November 1st to December 31st. I'm fielding several inquiries of interested parties. And we're concurrently running a request for proposals for third-party consultants to do the application review, so that those will be independently and competitively scored. And that RFP will close this week. Finally, just wanted to let the council know that we'll be canceling the Planning Commission meeting for tomorrow and rescheduling as a special meeting on December 14th. So that the Planning Commission can also receive a final presentation of the downtown specific plan and mixed use overlay. And there will be a couple of other planning applications that they'll review that evening as well. That concludes my update this evening. I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Thanks, Elaine. My one question is with regards to the grant. That was the one that we had potentially discussed. Having the chamber do a bunch of administrative work. Was that still in discussion or not?
I haven't initiated any conversation with the chamber about that. I'm happy to do so. I'd love to keep that funding local within our community, but the reporting requirements for CDBG tend to be pretty onerous. Yeah, so we'll run an RFP for professional services. It will be, an open process and transparent process. And happy to have a conversation with the chamber and see if that's something they have capacity to do.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Any other questions, comments? Nope. Then we'll move on to our final department report, our city administrator, Ron Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Mahoney, members of the council. Good to meet with you this evening. Notes just went away. So at the local transportation commission meeting last week, Mayor Mahoney chaired, Caltrans Region 9 made a presentation on the history of their studies regarding a truck route. And they seem to be encouraging the city to apply for funding to begin addressing that project. So I think that we probably need to meet and talk with them further on that issue. But in light of the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, was recently signed by President Biden. I believe that, or I hope that this may be time is ripe to go after federal funding for this project. So we'll look into that further and be talking as we find out more. I attended a meeting along with Elaine and the AMACA staff with the State Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, as you've heard of it frequently, regarding the home key pre-application consultation that they require before AMACA can apply for home key funds. We had a fairly extensive discussion regarding the Valley Apartments and also the possible acquisition of Sterling Heights. I took the opportunity to try to explain to the HCD staff how Bishop is landlocked due to LADWP land ownership and the seeming reticence to sell land for housing development. So hopefully those three people that were involved in that meeting have a little better understanding of what we're facing here and can be helpful to us and to AMACA in their seeking funds. We were thinking of trying to possibly have a holiday party for the staff and the council and the commissions, the city commissions. But in light of the amount of COVID activity we're experiencing in the county, we have decided to discontinue any planning for such a party, and we'll instead do something similar to what we did last year around the holidays. As has been reported a couple of times tonight, the staff has finalized plans with the chamber regarding the Christmas parade and other activities on December 4th, and everyone's invited. Also on Sterling Heights, I attended a meeting with Assembly Member Devin Mathis and his staff, along with three other city managers in his district. And again, that meeting requested their assistance in trying to find state grant funding to buy and operate the Sterling Heights property. My confidence in that possibility is diminishing. However, as I understand, there are two other parties that are possibly making offers or negotiating to buy the property, and we probably cannot move as fast as they may. I also participated in a International City Management Association webinar regarding the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, trying to learn as much as we can about that as it begins to roll out and funds be available. Also, we received the quote from the roofing contractor regarding the roof of the Chamber Visitor Center building, and it came in quite high. Tawny and I talked last week at some length. I went and met with her, and I said that I'm reluctant to spend a great deal of money on that building, and we agreed to hold off for now due to some options that may be coming available for perhaps another location. We're just investigating that. We're going to spend some money and try to do what we can to assuage the leaking of that roof. But just to let you know, we're going to be looking at other options. Nothing that we can guarantee at this point by any means, but see what we can do to find good space for the visitor center and the chamber offices. And I think that's all I have this evening.
Thanks, Ron. That's a lot going on. Any questions, comments from the council? I do hope that one of the two, or whatever parties are interested in Sterling Heights, are interested in doing things to benefit the community.
Yes, we do hope so.
Okay, next up on the agenda is our consent calendar. So notice to the public, all matters under the consent calendar are considered routine by the city and will be acted on by one motion. Do we have any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Do we have any public comment? I don't see any raised hands, and I don't think we had any emails. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
I will second that.
Okay, Robin, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote. Robin, you're muted. Do we have Dean? Who else can take a vote? Oh,
Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-1.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have a public hearing. And it's a public hearing and a first reading introduction on a proposed ordinance related to the implementation of SB 9, Senate Bill 9, for the creation of 2 residential units per lot. I will now open the public hearing and allow our staff to present on this item.
Good evening again, Mayor Mahove and Council. As introduced, this item is in regards to the adoption of an ordinance consistent with Senate Bill 9, which was signed by Governor Newsom on September 16th of this year and comes into effect on January 1st, 2022. SB 9 allows for the creation of 2 residential units per single family zoned lot. It also allows for the city to ministerially approve an urban lot split, which means that a subdivision of a single family zone property consistent with the development standards within our ordinance would not go to the Planning Commission and would be approved at a staff level. The ordinance before you for consideration this evening was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their October meeting, and the Planning Commission adopted a resolution that recommended the City Council adopt the ordinance as presented. As I have already described, what this ordinance allows for, in essence, is that a single family zoned property which meets the minimum development standards in the ordinance could be approved by staff to be subdivided into 2 properties, and 2 residential units could be approved on each of those properties. There are certain exemptions included in state law and incorporated into our ordinance, and that includes that the property does not fall within a city or state historic district or is not designated as a state or city historic landmark, that the property is not prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. The property does not contain wetlands. The property may not be located within a very high fire severity zone. The property may not be a hazardous waste site, may not fall within a delineated earthquake fault zone, a special flood hazard area, or a 100-year FEMA flood map area. And the property may not be habitat for a state or federally protected species. The urban lot split may also not require the demolition of any deed restricted housing or the housing in which a tenant has been occupying it for 3 or more years. If a property owner wished to convert an existing structure on the house into residential, so long as it meets the current dimensions and footprint of the structure, there's no setback requirements. That's consistent with our existing ADU ordinance or accessory dwelling units ordinance. And also construction of a new residential unit would also be consistent with our accessory dwelling unit ordinance and state law. And that means that there would need to be a 4-foot setback for side yard and rear yard setbacks. One of the provisions of this ordinance that is a little peculiar is it basically supersedes the city's ordinance for any front yard frontages. And so the minimum front yard frontage would be 12 feet to provide for vehicle access for a lot that may be created in the rear of the existing lot. The ordinance only requires that 1 parking space would be required for the newly created property. The city council may require that that parking space can be covered. In addition to that, the city may not require any objective zoning, subdivision, or design review standards that would physically preclude construction of 2 units on any of the parcels that would be created. The city may require a signed affidavit indicating that the owner would use one of those properties and dwelling units as their primary residence for 3 years. That is consistent with the state law and is included in the ordinance for your consideration. In addition, the ordinance does not permit for any of the units created through a subdivision under SB 9 to be used for a short-term rental. That's also consistent with state law and included in the ordinance for your consideration this evening. That concludes my summary and overview of the ordinance. At this time, staff would request that the City Council conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed ordinance and conduct the first reading of an ordinance adopting changes to Title 16 subdivisions and Title 17 zoning relating to the implementation of Senate Bill 9 for the creation of 2 residential units per lot by title only. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions you have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Elaine. I mean, I guess effectively this makes us be in compliant with SB 9. And we are adding some provisions to basically state that to basically nail down some more details that go a little bit beyond SB 9. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the city's ability to add development standards in addition to SB 9 is really minor.
And so I just want to make sure that one of the concerns that I had was with some of the wording in the ordinance. We know that it means that for a residential lot, and this is only for lots in R1, to be split up, it can only be split up into 2 properties, and each of those can only have 1 housing unit. Is that correct? Or can each of those have a housing unit and an ADU?
Yeah, each can have 2 dwelling units.
Oh, okay. And that is consistent with the state law.
So if I'm trying to read through here and see if I missed it. I could split my lot in half and sell half my lot.
Yeah, I neglected to say during my staff report that the minimum lot size is 1,200 square feet, which is far below our minimum standard currently. And you do need to subdivide the property so that the two lots are approximately the same size. Yeah, but aside from that, if you had a 3,000 square foot lot, you could subdivide it to create a second lot that is 1,500 square feet that would be consistent with this ordinance, and you could put 2 residential units on each.
Would
And
you,
would, go ahead.
sorry, go on, Karen.
And you would have to live in one of those units for 3 years.
Correct.
So a developer wouldn't be able to come in and do this on their own. It has to be, how would we enforce that? How do we know? Because I know we've had some issues with short-term rentals being not so straight, not honest with us and saying that they're living at the property that they're short-term renting.
So there is the requirement that they would sign an affidavit saying that they would live there for 3 years. I think there could potentially be some issues with enforcement, simply because the city doesn't have the capacity to be proactively enforcing these things. But, you know, we don't have sufficient enough staff to have run a thorough analysis of how many properties would be subject to this. But largely, most of the lots in Bishop are pretty small and are already developed. And so similar to our short-term rental ordinance for the foreseeable future, I can't imagine that there would be so many property owners taking advantage of this ordinance that it would become a concern that there would be outside speculation.
And just to clarify with regards to Jim's question, if he were to split his lot, he wouldn't just be able to sell the other lot. He would actually have to put a house on it before selling it, or could he just split it and even it and sell it undeveloped?
I don't think there's anything in state law or in our ordinance that would preclude him from selling the lot that's created, so long as he continued to live in
the other one.
his primary residence.
All right, split my lot up.
Can we add any provisions to that effect?
I would refer to Mr. Pucci on which provisions we can add. You know, prior to staff drafting this ordinance, there was some back and forth trying to analyze this legislation. It does seem like there a lot of municipalities are a little frustrated about how this will be implemented in different cities on the ground. I would almost anticipate that we can see some changes coming from the state level, but largely it was very restrictive in terms of the authority of the city to add additional prerequisites or development standards.
Well, I just mean from the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is to allow for more housing, and having somebody split a lot and then not develop the lot and then just sell the lot doesn't ensure that the spirit of the law is met. I think you could sell it and then the new owner could just let it sit vacant.
So Mayor Mohave, you're pointing out issues that many other council members across the entire state are pointing out as they're being forced to adopt this as well. And so I don't have easy answers for you other than I think we've tweaked it as much as we can tweak it at this point. In terms of flexibility, I agree with Elaine that we likely will see. Well, HCD doesn't even have some of the answers to a lot of the questions we're asking. And so I think we will see this evolve naturally. And if HCD provides further guidance that we have further authorities, you can be sure that we will bring it back to you and modify it as those issues become resolved.
And all right. And just to be clear, this is like a one-time deal, so you can't just keep xenon paradoxing and just like splitting your lot in half and half like a few years down the line.
That's correct.
So that was actually my question, that if you had a big lot and you split it in half, you're saying you can't then split your smaller lot that you're living on in half again? That it's a one-time shot for no matter how big your property is?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
I mean, I guess if you had a big enough lot, you could petition to the planning commission to split your lot. But what this is doing is it's removing that step so that the first time you don't have to go through any sort of an approval to do it. Would that be a reasonable interpretation or no? Because you still have to get approval from like to demonstrate that your lots are split halfway, et cetera, right?
So you don't need any planning commission approval under this ordinance.
Right.
And I can't find exactly the provision in here, but basically, yes, it limits the ability to split a property using this ordinance to, there's just that one time. If you had a large enough property that you could then subdivide it consistent with the existing standards that we have in place, that would always be the property owner's right to do so, and it would be subject to planning commission approval.
So my other question was, I realize that the planning commission is out of that piece of it, and that our all of our stuff that we have in place doesn't necessarily apply in this state, in this law. But are there any pieces of this that would have to go in front of the planning commission when they're building the house or they're building the units, or is it all just whatever the heck they want?
Only if
as long as
if it meets the minimum standards as described in this ordinance, it meets the minimum setbacks, it meets the height standards we have in place for residential, it meets all the standards we have in place. No, there's no planning commission approval associated with it.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question, Elaine, since you just mentioned height limits. The height limit applies, let's say someone, not to use Jim or myself or anyone, if someone,
let's use Jim.
Let's say Jim splits his lot and Stephen buys the other half. The house, the unit Stephen is building doesn't need to comply with the high limit for residential or for the ADU?
That's an excellent question. So currently, this ordinance does not prescribe a height limit for the 2 units. It would be, I suppose, consistent with what our single family zoning is, which is 26 feet. Our accessory dwelling unit ordinance, which might govern the second unit on this property, has a maximum height limitation of 16 feet.
And so does this just change the definition of what R1 zoning is?
Yeah, yeah, statewide.
But it would still be
Thank you,
designated R1.
Yes. Yes, it would. But yeah, basically what the state law does is remove R1 zoning throughout the state.
Sorry, Jose.
That is okay. Thank you, Elaine, for answering that question.
Cool. And so, I mean, this is coming from above. We don't really have much of a say in it, huh? Do we have any testimony from the public?
There's no public comments in our public comment email, and I don't see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
I don't see any raised hands.
Thank you.
Okay, so unless anybody objects, I will close the public hearing. All right, and now we will deliberate on the matter. Do we have any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion. I guess I can do it. I will move that we approve the first reading of an ordinance adopting changes to Title 16 subdivisions and Title 17 zoning relating to the implementation of Senate Bill 9 for the creation of 2 residential units per lot by title only.
I'll second that.
Okay, Robin, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, adopting changes to Title 16 subdivisions and Title 17 zoning relating to the implementation of Senate Bill 9 for the creation of 2 residential units per single-family lot. Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Magoo.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, our first item on new business today is Planning Commission. Council consideration to waive the advertisement of a scheduled Planning Commission vacancy with the term ending on January 24th, 2022, and reappoint a Planning Commissioner with the term ending January 24th, 2026. Is this going to Elaine or Ron? Ron?
I'll take it. Thank you, Mayor Mahove and members of the council. According to the City Council Policy Manual, in Section 8.3, Commission appointments, the council has the option to not advertise for a new member of Planning Commission and to not seek applicants for the upcoming vacancy should they wish to consider reappointing the current commissioner. The current commissioner is Heather Lynn, whose term ends on January 24th of 2022. And we are recommending that the council give consideration to waive the advertisement, fill the scheduled vacancy on the Planning Commission, and reappoint Heather Lynn with a term ending on January 24, 2026. And Heather's letter seeking reappointment is included in your packet.
Cool. Do we have Heather on? Do we want to promote her to a panelist? Or did she just sign off right now?
She's on her way in.
Here she is. Hi, Heather.
Good evening.
Hi, Heather. How's it going?
Going well. How are you all?
Doing all right. So you've enjoyed being the planning commissioner so much, you want to keep at it for another 4 years.
I think so. I'd hate to lose track of all the very interesting and progressive kind of planning issues at stake at this moment. There's a lot going on, and I feel quite kind of involved in that and would enjoy to see some of that through, for sure.
Well, we definitely thank you for your commitment and your service and your continued willingness to serve on the commission. Do any council members want to grill Heather a little more?
Yes, thank you. I spent about 2 years on the planning commission working with Heather, and it was a pleasure. And I know she and every planning commission member are doing a great job. So I'm happy to see Heather interested in continuing serving on the planning commission. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, I'd like to say, Heather, whenever I watch a planning commission meeting, I like that you bring a little, I don't know, a little different perspective, a little fire to the commission. You have good perspective on different things. You see things from different sides. I think the commission's well-rounded, and you've been a great part of that. So I would recommend you.
Yes, thank you so much for your service. I remember when you applied to be a commissioner and we interviewed you, and we were all very impressed with your spunk. So glad to see that you are willing to serve another term.
And Heather, I just am always thrilled when people with spunk get their due. So I'm happy that you're there and working hard for the city.
And Heather, the only thing I have to say is I see your letter where you wish to be reappointed. Careful what you wish for.
It would be an honor.
Do we have any public comment on this matter?
There are no public comments in the public comment email, and I do not see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
I do not see any raised hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Mahovey, I will try to be full of spunk when I make this recommendation. I'll make a motion to waive the advertisement to fill the scheduled vacancy of the Planning Commission with the term ending January 24, 2022, and reappoint Heather Lind to the Planning Commission with a term ending on January 24th, 2026.
I'll
second that motion.
Okay, Robin, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Khan,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks again, Heather.
Thank you,
for-
ladies and
for all this
gentlemen.
time. Thank you so much. Okay, and now we begin the Rich Show. We'll begin. Our next item is Police Department flooring replacement.
With Destin out of town, I'm doing my best to monopolize this entire meeting tonight, by the way.
Good. Well, it demonstrates that you've been getting your ducks in order, so.
Trying to stay busy. So I prepared the staff report regarding the carpet in the police building. As many of you know, it's been put onto the capital projects list for basically the last 3 years, maybe even a little bit before that. And what caused us to really kind of push to get it done now is we took a look at the pricing and where things are going, and compared to the last couple of bids we've had here to what we've got now, the prices are starting to go up significantly, much higher than what they have been in the past. So one of the things we took a look at doing is we really need to start putting some investment back into this building, because it looks like we're not going to get the new either city or police building anytime soon. So one of the things we hope is to get council on board, and I've given each of you kind of a tour of some of the things that we need to get replaced in here. And we're looking at doing it over a period of time, 2 to 3 years, to get just the few things we need to do. Part of my goal as police chief is, if we can't get a new building, is to make some modifications to the existing one to hopefully get us out maybe 10 more years if we need to. So flooring will do that. As I've prepared my staff report for you, kind of outlined why. We got 2 bids only when we went out to RFP. And I think the best and most competitive bid we got is from our local vendor, which is Carpets or Carpet for Your Home. They came in at $29,307.50. And that is for flooring. It's not for carpet, especially as we start to move forward, as we get post-pandemic, things like that. We need to take a look at ways to make the building more clean and sanitary. And by removing carpet, that will definitely do that, especially as police officers, the places we go and the things we do, we have a tendency to track a lot of bacteria and things into buildings on our shoes. And the laminate type flooring one will give us a lot longer shelf life than carpet, a lot easier to clean, easier to maintain, and a lot safer and more bacteria free as we move forward. So where we sit with this, though, is I'm asking council and city administrator to help me identify a funding source to pay for this, with a mid-year budget modification, of course.
Well, I mean, in addition to all of the issues you mentioned, as we always talk about, we have trouble with attracting people and retaining people. And of course, whether you like to admit it or not, part of that is just how your work environment looks like. And if I were a new cadet and I were coming out to tour a facility and it didn't look like it was being maintained, you can't help but think that, like, well, if this is how they care for a facility, how are they going to care for me?
And Steve, I think Rich brought up a great point with the stuff that goes through there. I worked there for years and it never failed. You walk someone through there and all it takes is some kind of vomit or some kind of incident to happen, and you have its own problem. And yes, you're right. The job you guys do, you go to crime scenes in different places. And I think from a public, not even a public, our employee safety standpoint, I think the vinyl plank floors is the way to go. It allows some resilience, some cleanability, and just for a better work environment overall, and also better, safer work environment. So I'm all for this. I think it's long overdue, and I'm glad to see you get it before us.
I agree. I fully support it. Thanks, Chief, for putting the work in to getting the quote and making this happen.
Can I ask a legal question here in terms of, has no funding source been identified for this yet? And is this going to be part of a future mid-year budget adjustment, or is the direction from council authorize this expenditure, direct the city administrator to find those funds and then bring this back for approval to reallocate those funds? I'm confused as to how this is happening.
We have enough funds, if necessary, from vacancy savings that we can use for this. We also have the money that has come to the city as a result of congressional action on the COVID funding. So I don't think we'll have any problem, even if the budget is not changed.
Thank you.
So do we have to, when making a motion, do we have to specify the extenuating circumstances 10.4. whatever, Dean?
Well, the bids were already completed. I'm just not used to seeing bids going out without an identified funding source. But if the city administrator is saying that he believes that either COVID funding or some other funding source can fund this, then that's a finance director question and not really a legal question. So I'll leave it at that and just stop talking and stop wasting everybody's time. But I want to make sure that this was not something we need to bring back to the council later for ratification. So
I'm very comfortable with it, with the circumstances I described.
And Rich, I've been in there lots of times and really understood the need for new flooring. And then Jim added vomit into the picture, and now I completely understand the need for new flooring. So thanks, Jim.
I can describe worse, Karen.
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
Do we have any public comment?
There are no public comments in our public comment email, and I do not see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
There are no raised hands.
Thank you.
Jim, please don't talk about vomit, but please do.
Want me to
make a
motion this one?
Yeah.
I make a motion that the city council approve the flooring replacement quote submitted by our local vendor, Carpet for Your Home, in the amount of $29,307.50. And staff finds that funding. Blah, blah, blah. There you go.
I second that.
All right, Robin, we have a motion, a second call for the vote.
Councilmember Khan,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
These are way funner than Destin ones.
All right, and next up, don't go anywhere, Chief. Patrol car lease program, council consideration to grant approval for the city administrator to execute the contract to enter into a lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management for the purchase of the 4 police units.
So as everyone knows, that's why we kind of started this process with Enterprise Rent-A-Car some months ago, is because our fleet is severely aging. And one of the things we're running into is also the availability of cars that are out there. So that's why we wanted to go to a fleet management service. So we've got these quotes from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and initially we got the quote for 2 marked patrol cars and 2 unmarked patrol cars. Well, since I submitted the staff report, we've started having an issue with one of the other patrol cars. So in all actuality, it has over 94,000 miles on it. And we weren't going to look to replace it until next year, but we have the budget money now. So as part of this staff report, one of the things, and I've talked to as many council members as I could get before this meeting tonight, as well as Dean and the city administrator. So I'm going to ask for an amendment to this council agenda item to reflect the purchase of 3 marked patrol cars, so we can have a nice, safe patrol car fleet out there, very nice looking fleet, and then only replace 1 unmarked patrol car. So I've got the updated quotes that upon council approval of this staff report, I can present to Ron to sign and execute the contract. So what it will do, excuse me, is it for the 3 marked patrol cars, it will raise the cost to $36,423.24 down. And it'll, the payment will still be $821.39 per car for a total of $2,464.17 per month. But at the same time, it will reduce on the unmarked to only $9,184.11 down, with a payment of $783.10 per month. And these cars will all be paid for out of the COPS grant account, which we have a very good surplus in there right now, and we need to utilize that and move forward, which is why I'm asking council for 4 instead of less like we had initially planned, since we have more funding than we had anticipated. And I'm requesting that council authorize me to make the purchase with the amendments as stated.
So one of the questions that I have is we agreed to have Enterprise do the fleet management.
Sure.
Because in the long term, it will end up saving us money. And I guess is under that fleet management agreement, is this the kind of purchases or actions that would be routine? I.e., like every time a car is going to be, I guess I'm asking about the process. Every time a car is going to be implemented through Enterprise, do we have to do the approval in this manner, or is this just something? Do we know?
I think what you're asking is, can we do something to where we're entering into a contract with this fleet management company so we don't have to keep coming back to council every time for this process if we have it already in place?
Right.
Ron and I talked about that a little bit. Dean and I didn't get to talk about as much, but Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of hinges on our passing of our purchasing ordinance.
Yeah, the purchasing ordinance has limits of purchasing that are very, very low.
Right.
And so staff doesn't have the capability of going beyond that without council action. But we will be bringing the purchase ordinance back before you in the next month or two, asking that those amounts be increased.
Well, I don't think those amounts would cover this, even if we were to increase it. I think right now we're at like 5,000, something like that for the purchases. And this is, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. So
But even at that, Mayor, I'm not going to buy cars on such a regular basis that it would probably impact council agenda items if we can't get around it.
Mhm.
So to resolve the issue and bring closure to the question, I'll look at it with the chief in terms of if there's any creative ways that we could bring back and maybe an amendment to that contract. The purchasing ordinance is not going to be relevant here, as the mayor states, with the amounts involved. But can there be a standing authorization by the council not to exceed a certain amount, perhaps if it's within, if it's budgeted for that year under that kind of umbrella? Again, more of a finance director question, but I will work with the team to see if we can come up with some solutions to work around that moving forward.
One of the ways I've seen this done in the past, Dean, and it's probably a conversation you and I and Ron can have later, is when we go to budget for the next year or after that, subsequently, when we know we're going to make these purchases, to make that part of the council's approval of our capital projects for each individual budget, and then it shouldn't be an issue as we move forward. Especially, I know, Mayor, one of the questions you had is, will the equipment be able to be placed from one car to the other? Right now, no, because with the new changes in the Fords, we won't be able to salvage any of that equipment, but that's the goal moving forward, which is why we want to standardize the fleet to one type of vehicle. Instead of having Dodges and Fords, we'll eventually have all Fords. And one of the questions I had for Omar, who is running our account, and Ron and Destin and I all met with him, is it looks like the prices right now are really high. But as we move forward, that's when we'll start seeing our cost savings because of the good trade-in value we're going to get on the cars, where right now we have none. So how we're making the down payments in the future, that's where we'll see a lot of the monies drop off, and our initial payouts will be much lower moving forward.
Okay. And okay, well, that's good to hear. And these funds, they come from the COPS grant, which is designated for these purposes anyway.
Yes,
and
we can use it for that.
We can't use them for other purposes anyway, right?
We can some, but right now, with the surplus we have in the COPS grant, this is the best and most viable option to utilize those funds this year.
Karen?
Rich, my question would be, I read and maybe I wasn't quite on the ball when I did, but I didn't see any striping or that kind of stuff. Is that going to be an extra cost added on after we get them?
The graphics are included in our upfit from Nate. So, okay. And even if we did have to pay for the graphics, the cost is so insignificant, it wouldn't impact anything. We have the funds for that also.
Okay, great.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, just a quick comment, Rich. Thank you. I like the conversation that you and I had earlier in the week that these cars are, the second we get them, they hit the street, they're ready to go. I like that component through Enterprise, because in the past we'd get a car and it would then have to be fitted and retrofitted and outfitted and just a lot of fitting. And I like that we keep our officers on the street with 100% reliability, which I think is vital to the job you guys do. So I love this. Thank you for getting this before us.
Thank you.
And so by changing or by doing 3 of the marked vehicles, how many do we have total in our fleet?
10 marked. And 2 of the Crown Vics have been down for quite some time. They're extremely old. They're well over 14 years old. And so they've had transmission issues, and we didn't even repair them because of the cost to repair is way exceeds the value of what the car is worth. And then one of our Ford SUVs that we have in service now is starting to have some interior problems, starting to come apart, things that we're going to have to transport it somewhere to get repaired if we want to, and that cost is going to be significant. So we just made the decision to forego replacing one of the other unmarked and put another marked on the street.
Any public comment on this matter?
There are no public comments in our public comment email, and I do not see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
There are no raised hands.
Thank you.
Karen, you're muted.
Okay, not muted anymore. I will make a motion to approve for the city administrator to execute the contract to enter into the lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management for the purchase of the 4 police units.
I'll second that.
Okay, Robin, we have a, wait, for 4 or for 5?
4.
4, okay. Robin, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next up, Community Services Officer job description. Council to consider to approve the proposed Community Services Officer job descriptions and salary scale. Rich.
Okay, so one of the things I'm asking for is to create the community service officer position. We've run into an issue with recruiting right now in the city of Bishop, and it's not unique to anyone. Inyo County's having the same problem. Central Valley's inundated with vacancies that they can't fill. There's more vacancies out there than people in the academy. One of the other struggles we're running into, especially in this area right now, is the cost of housing and the ability to get trainees to relocate. That was one of the major reasons we lost our trainee that was in background recently. That was the cost of housing was a major concern. So staff got together and we thought about creating the community service officer position. It used to be a position here within the city of Bishop. Jim Ellis can probably confirm that much better than I can, but somewhere along the line it was removed. So one of the goals of that position is to bring in a local person, younger, wanting to get into law enforcement. We hire them to do a myriad of tasks. They learn to write reports, handling non-suspect investigations like your hit and run traffic collisions with no suspects on scene, your minor traffic collisions where folks are exchanging information, some of your minor petty thefts, burglaries, things like that. And one of the benefits of that is we are able to put them through a training program. And so when we make the decision at some point to send them to the police academy, they have about 100% success rate because they've been able to tackle all these different things while working for us. And in addition, we get to hire someone local and let them grow up in our agency and then come back eventually and be a police officer. So when we talked about that, it's more of a strategic planning thing for the police department is to look at how to have a staffing source down the road. And so one of the ways we do that, since we don't have a police explorer program, is to bring back the community service officer program and to kind of grow that person within our department. So one of the ways we've looked at funding that, we're asking to put that on next year's budget, not this current budget cycle, unless we would hit an emergency and we needed the staffing. But the way things are going, even if we tried to fill that position right now, we wouldn't be able to get it done before the next budget cycle is getting ready to go anyway. And so that's one of the things we want to get done is to create that position. So I submitted a staff report to council, but I'm sure there's going to be some questions, so I'm ready for them if you would like to start.
I guess one of the questions that I have is, this person would be able to do like stuff like fingerprinting, because
Yes.
we did have a pretty big backlog in a few months back. This person would be able to do that, and so we wouldn't need a sworn officer to do that. Is that correct?
No, where this position really comes in, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor, is it frees up sworn officers. So when a sworn officer gets stuck taking a non-suspect graffiti, non-suspect petty theft, stolen bicycle, things of that magnitude, you're pulling that sworn officer anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours on something like that they can't be out doing productive patrol, being visible in the public, doing walk and talks down Main Street, contacting business owners, actually doing a lot of the community service functions that we want our police officers to be out doing. So that's where this position becomes vital. They can come in and do some citation sign-offs. They can help with some of the parking violations that our sworn officers are getting called out to, and things like that. So it really opens up a whole other avenue for us to keep our sworn personnel out and proactive. One of the other things that this position will do is participate, in community events, can be a supplement to Destin's crews out putting up barricades, things like that for Friday night market and some of those other things. So that's kind of this position. It seems like it's a lot of, and I hate to use the term gopher work, but that's what it is, because we're kind of creating the next generation of personnel to come in this department and be able to hit the ground running and know everything about this city and this agency as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen recently that we've had community members complain about graffiti, and yeah, we hear about a lot of bicycle thefts, and so yeah, seems like this could be a way to actually have someone more proactive in the community who
Correct.
isn't as that is a more cost-effective manner to have that. Jose, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I talked to Chief Standridge is that this position, community service officer, it's almost like our community outreach officer. And given the fact that our community, it's more than 30% Hispanic, it makes complete sense that we add to the qualification bilingual preferred to this position. It's just bilingual preferred. It doesn't have to be, but it will help tremendously if this person is bilingual. So
correct. That was one of my
Thank you.
next things I was going to bring up, council member. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was an oversight on our part. We there was no community service officer job description left in the city of Bishop, so we kind of grabbed this and piecemealed it from some agencies similar to ours to make it work. Sorry for that oversight on that, but I know you and I had talked about making that correction tonight.
We did talk about it, and we both know that it makes completely sense that it is added. So I just wanted to make sure council members know that, and that we don't forget to mention that.
Sure.
And I'm very enthusiastic of this idea of having a community service officer. So no, thank you for bringing that up and to our department.
Yeah, and one of the commitments, I'm sorry, council member Ellis, go ahead, please.
No, go with yours.
I just wanted to remind council that one of my commitments to you is when you hired me is that I was going to, one, diversify the department, and two, we were going to start growing from within and kind of start bringing people in at the deck plate level and getting that pride and prestige back in Bishop and start moving forward and bringing the locals back in. I understand I'm not a local, but I understand what it is to be local. As the department I came from, I was there for, almost 24 years before I came over here. So that's one of the commitments I made to you, and this is my starting point for that.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jim,
point,
but the commitment that we as council member made when we hire you is to make you a local. So you are a local now.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jim?
Chief, I actually applaud that too, because I think it's important. there's some things you can't, it's hard to train someone from outside the area, but if they have it already in their background, they know all the little streets and the nuances of the towns. I think it's just invaluable. But I know back in my day when we had the CSO, and I don't know if times have changed through CLETS and through whatever. I remember a couple of incidents where a dispatcher would call in, could make it, and the CSO could fill in to save overtime budget. Is that an option with the CSO position, kind of a fill in?
We haven't thought about that per se, but I won't rule it out.
Okay. But the concept itself, I think keeping officers on the street, you know, I remember one of the ones that was the hardest one when I have to call officers in off the street is for like found property.
Right.
The law requires that, you know, you have to take a report on that. And that's half hour of time off the street. Officer had to come in, fill out a report, blah, 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 take all the information, where when the CSO was doing it, it was just part of the job and it was so much quicker. So I applaud it. I thank you. I think this is it's a time saving and a budget saving item that I think will round out our police department nicely.
Chief, I also like that it's an entry-level position where someone local can get some great job skills and not have to leave the area. So I think that's another huge benefit for someone entering the workforce for the first time. The one area I'm a little concerned is that we haven't talked about, I know you had mentioned when you spoke to it, it's not in the staff report, that you're gonna think about putting into the next year's budget. However, this staff report says it's looking at going in the 21-22 in this year's budget. And we haven't talked about, you know, adding something of this magnitude into the budget. And so I was wondering if the rest of the council would be interested in potentially having like a budget adjustment, mid-year budget workshop with a strategic plan looking at, you know, the police force, where we're at with our Measure P funds, where we're at with the budget in general, and potentially strategizing future positions in all departments. So we're not piecemealing all these jobs that department heads find that maybe we need. I just would rather have it be a much more comprehensive strategic move versus adding it because we need it right now. Even though it probably makes sense, I would just be more comfortable maybe doing a mid-year budget strategic planning session for all of the departments. Because I'm not sure where we're at with our Measure P funds, and I'm not sure, you know, what we can do in addition to positions like these.
That's a really good point. And there are also, and in addition to where we're at with Measure P, where we're at with a lot of the Federal Recovery Act funds like ARPA and all of those things. So it'd be good to have a mid-year budget session on that. I agree.
And so maybe we could approve this after, maybe approve the job description, but wait until we do a mid-year budget strategic plan review to approve the position is what I was, what I am proposing.
I think that's sensible. And I think that's in line with the timeline you were presenting, right, Chief?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Absolutely. If I'm just mostly tonight asking council to at least approve the job description. I'm more than comfortable with doing a strategic plan and kind of taking a look at things as to where we are right now and where we want to go. So I think you'll find department heads are more than willing to get on board with that and support council fully in that aspect. So I appreciate that. I respect that decision by council, and in turn, I just ask that you at least approve the job description so I can have it available moving forward. So when we do see it's viable, then we're ready to go.
Great idea, Karen.
Mm-hmm. Any public input?
There are no public comments and I do not see any raised hands. Elaine, can you confirm?
I do not see any raised hands.
Thank
If
you.
if I can add one thing that I think it's important for council to hear kind of where command staff for your police department's vision is going with this. We're going to be facing a lot of various legislation coming down for police reform and some other things towards the cities in the upcoming next 1 to 3 years. And one of the proposals is that it's going to start requiring police recruits to have at least an associate's degree. So I want to direct council's attention to this job description that I placed in there, that this person being hired has to be attending at least 3 units. I didn't want to go any higher than that because some of the geographical issues we deal with here with Saracoso and, internet, different things, but at least we can get that person attending one class. So as we think about this person becoming a full-time sworn officer with this department, we already have that mindset with them moving forward in the right direction to be in compliance as legislation is going to be passed.
Great to hear you looking at the future. Any other comments, questions from the council? I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the proposed community service officer job description as amended.
I'll second that motion.
All right, Robin, we have a motion, a second, call for the vote.
Councilmember Khan,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
thanks, Rich.
Thank you, council. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, and now we move on to future agenda items. Councilmember Khan.
I would like to have a discussion, not before the new year, but sometime in the new year about our short-term rental ordinance and what that looks like and kind of shoring up some of those things that are written in there.
Okay. Councilmember Garcia, future agenda items.
Yes, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, I am interested in us having a discussion to review Title 17.75 of our municipal code, which deals with accessory dwelling units. Specifically, I identify 1 or 2 things that can make it more housing friendly. So I can specifically mention the limitation on height. So if Elaine can add this to her list of agenda items to bring up to discussion sometime after the first of the year. It doesn't have to be in the January, but February maybe. So I would appreciate that.
Okay. Councilmember Ellis.
Nothing tonight.
I saw Ron raised his hand.
I just wanted to mention that the action taken tonight.
You need to get closer to the mic.
The action taken tonight regarding Senate Bill 9 also addresses many issues regarding accessory dwelling.
Okay. We'll review that. Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz.
As we discussed in the last agenda item, a mid-year budget review / strategic planning session for the next 3 to 5 years to see where we're at financially.
Okay. And I have no future agenda items. So moving on to council and committee reports. Let's go back to Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz.
I didn't have any committee meetings, and unfortunately I will be celebrating a good friend's 50th birthday during the parade, so I will be out of town and you guys will have to enjoy the parade without me.
We can do that.
That's it.
Cool. Councilmember Ellis, council committee reports.
All right. You asking for a fire truck this year? For Christmas? Yeah, I know you want one. Quickly, had an ESTA meeting on the 12th. Pretty straightforward meeting. Agreed to hero pay as for a vaccine incentive for the drivers. Afterwards, we had a strategic planning meeting, a public meeting that addressed some future needs, some holes in our system. ESTA has it's a word I'm looking for, Karen, advisor.
Oh, it's like, yeah, they're doing like a transportation plan.
Yeah, a consultant.
Yeah.
We have a consultant that came in that's just, they're reaching out to all the entities, the cities and municipalities included, but then also the hospitals and anyone who needs public transit and what the needs are, what the future holds. So looking at different collaborations. So it's a great meeting, and they're coming up with some great ideas and looking at the whole picture, where the trends are going in the future, where Bishop's at. So it's good that everyone's getting into the puzzle. It's not just Mammoth Mountain. It's a little bit of where everybody needs to be. And then last Friday, I attended the Larry Chimbole Lifetime Achievement Award with League of California Cities down in Palmdale. And I know tonight in our consent agenda, we approved a proclamation for this year's winner. Her name is Karen Betancourt. She is a mayor pro tem of Palmdale. Had a chance to talk to her, and just what her staff said about her fellow council members. Just an amazing member of the council, and well deserving of the award. In our meeting part of the thing, I want to bring something to the council. We had a League of California Cities Desert Mountain League meeting before that, and it's our first one we've had in public in quite a long time. But the number one topic that came up, and it's affecting everybody, but in different ways, is in California. It's gone before the Senate. You saw it, Stephen, this year at the end of the session up in Sacramento. The tax kind of I guess fairness that they're trying to do. In California, there's about a handful, 4 to 5 counties and cities that basically kind of hold California hostage because they have the fulfillment centers or distribution centers for internet services, and all the sales taxes funneled through them. So there's a big push, and it's starting to get a little more steam from down low at our level to get some equity in there. And where's our share of all the sales tax that everybody in Bishop is buying on Amazon goes to Ranch Cucamonga or somewhere else, and we don't see any part of it. The problem is that apparently, and I hate to say this in a public meeting, but probably Amazon and some other players are greasing the wheels to be in Sacramento, and it will be held up at least for another year to 2 years. And we're going to study it and try to go do something. So, but we're going to take it on a Desert Mountain League this year to be a little louder at speaking up on it and try to get some of the other rural communities and the other 54 counties who aren't seeing a dime of their money on board to try to push this through. So that's where I am.
Some good work there. Yeah. Councilmember Garcia, any council and committee reports?
Last week, I also attended the LTC meeting as well as you and Ron. And as Ron mentioned earlier, Caltrans did a presentation on the study they did 15 years ago or more in regards to a truck route or a bypass for the city of Bishop. Very interesting to hear that some of the issues they found 15 years ago are the same issues that we were dealing with today, but it looks like there are funding opportunities where the city of Bishop and Inyo County can work together, and there's a possibility of updating that study and potentially having Caltrans take an action. We don't know exactly what that may look like, or well, when. It's not going to be in the next 5 years for sure, but in the future, maybe. So if we do nothing, nothing's going to happen. So I think it's in everyone's interest that the city and the county work together and look into this interesting request that many in our community been voicing over the last at least 15 years, maybe even more. So that's all I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Kong.
So last week I did attend the EMCC meeting on Monday night to talk about EMS service and the shortage of EMTs and all the other issues that come with that. And so we're going to be working on that together as a county and with Simons and with the whole EMCC group. I also had an OBGA meeting in which they have received all of the comments for the OBGA, for the big report, the GSP, and they all got turned in by November 8th. And they got really great response on the comments, 72 pages of comments on the plan itself. Mono County responded, Tri-Valley, Big Pine Tribe, Pine Creek Village, Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Bristlecone chapter of the California Native Society, plus a bunch of other just individuals who had thoughts and feelings about it. And so we talked a little bit about some of the changes that will be made because of the comments, and we will be getting back together on December the 9th to consider adopting the plan and sending it off to the state.
Sounds good. Yep. As you guys heard, I went to the LTC, Local Transportation Commission, and yeah, the highlight of that meeting was definitely the 20-year-old presentation from Caltrans on the circulation study in the Bishop area, and they actually had a lot of there were a lot of findings in that report from 20 years ago. Mainly that one of the more interesting ones was that the majority of the traffic that we have on Main Street is local traffic. And they had a bunch of recommendations in that for how to address better circulation within town. And it involved, of course, extending some streets on all sides of town, in particular on the west side. And also there were recommendations that were in that report that involved extending some of the streets in the county. And a lot of those did not get implemented. And so they sent us the reports. And so I'm gonna be sure to read that over the break. And then I'm hoping in the future we could have a discussion on it. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then the other thing, I attended the open house that the Eastside Student Center was doing, where they're creating a space for kids, middle school and high school age kids, where they can go hang out after school and get tutoring help and just have a safe place where they can not be getting in trouble. And it was really fun. And so they're starting to do it 2 days a week, starting in December, to try and get traction, and then hopefully turn it into a more permanent thing. But it was great to see, and I would recommend people go check it out when they're open again. And I believe that's all I have. So I want to thank everybody for joining and wish everybody a happy holiday. Have happy Turkey Day or whatever you're spending with your family, and be safe and enjoy some time off. And with that, I will adjourn until Monday, December 13, 2021. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.